Are we live? Is this thing on? Let's freaking go. It's football Sunday. We're here. We're ready to take all the questions. We're also ready to talk some football and some week one matchups. And I'm very excited. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for coming in. And we'll talk about every matchup. Just got to pull them up. And yeah, if you guys got any questions, by all means, feel free to send them my way. If you guys want props, locks, feel free to send them my way. And yeah, just pulling some stuff up. Running a little bit behind. I was just setting my lineups. You know how it goes. That is a delicious coffee. We got nobody here. Oh, my man. Scott Reynolds says, I am here and ready to learn. You got any questions, Scott? You got any questions, Scott? I got answers if you need it, buddy. I got answers if you need it. All right. We're going to do this. Present screen share. Got like a million. There we go. Let's build a pick'em. All right. We're going to do a $7 pick'em. Scott Reynolds says, yes, what do you expect from Burrow? Let me tell you. Give me one moment. All right, Joe Burrow. I'm expecting 36 attempts, 24 completions, 268 touchdowns. Just so I got him at around 2 passing touchdowns. I have him throwing an interception. Overall, I have him up for 20.1 fantasy football points. He is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He is my 7th ranked quarterback this week in fantasy football against the Cleveland Browns. So that's what I'm expecting from Burrow. If you like the if you like that. All right, let's go back to here. So yeah. 268 passing yards. He's going to destroy the record this year. Yeah, no, 268 passing yards. I have him at 1.9 touchdowns, so around 2 touchdowns if you want to round up. I think 1 touchdown safe, but yeah, that's just his floor. So I have his floor at 20 point. Let me see again. 20.1 fantasy points. That's my floor for him. And if you guys want access to my tools and all that good jazz, let me know. All right, let's start the pick'em. So week 1 projections. Let me just pull that up. Let's go to Sam Howell. All right, so I have Sam Howell throwing for 225 passing yards. That's 15 passing yards over his prop. So we like the over here for Sam Howell. Antonio Gibson, let's take a look at that. And it is PPR format, I believe. So it doesn't really matter for this, but let's just pull up the matchup. That'll make life so much easier. Arizona at Washington. All right, so I have Antonio Gibson for 38.4 rushing yards and 17.9 receiving yards. That is 56.3. What's the prop? The prop is, yeah, that's way too close. I'm not going there. Brian Robinson, 62.5 rushing yards. Brian Robinson at 65.5. That's still too close. I don't like it. It's not really a good outlier prop, so we're not going to go there. That owner box app is funky, much better on PC. Yeah, I've been using it forever. I love the app on the phone. I prefer it over the PC version actually. Let me see if I could pull that up too, so we can build a lineup together. Where's Fantasy Sports? All right, cool. So back to this. All right, drafters. Scott Reynolds says, "Hey, he's my starter, so I am hoping for more. Do you think that Lamar Jackson will rush for 50 or more yards?" Let's look at my Lamar Jackson projections. Lamar Jackson, I have him projected for 61.6 rushing yards, so I think he's going to pass 50 rushing yards for sure. I got him projected for 22.8 fantasy points, 220 passing yards, over. So 1 touchdown. I got him at 1.6 TDs. This is once again his floor. He's my 3rd ranked quarterback this week. So yeah, let's go back to running backs, PPR, Washington versus Arizona. I love my draft tools. I love my prop tools. I love all that. All right, so let's go back to drafters. Brian Robinson, no, I'm not going to take that. James Conner at 58.5 rushing yards. I have James Conner for 59.9 rushing yards, so I'm not touching that one either. Let's keep it moving. Jahan Dotson, 3.5 receptions, 44.5 receiving yards. Let's look at what my projections are here. Receivers, select a game. There it is. Okay, Jahan Dotson, I have him for 52.9 receiving yards. So I think there's enough there where, like, if that's his floor, I'm gonna like him. So I'm gonna. Oh, I can't pair QB and a receiver. Noted. Okay, thanks a lot, drafters. Moving on. Marquise Brown is at 46.5. I got Marquise Brown for 54. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. All right, let's go to the other game. We got Carolina against Atlanta. All right, so the prop for Bryce Young is 202.5 passing yards. I have Bryce Young for well over that. I have him for 227. So I'm going to smash the over. And then Desmond Ritter's at 197. And I have Desmond Ridder for 216. But I like Drake London a little bit more. So we'll see what his props at. Bijan is at 89.5 rushing plus receiving yards and 72.5 rushing yards. So let's pull that up. That helps my confidence. I played the free 5 ticket and picked him up to rush for more than 50, and took Bijan to rush for more than 69 yards. So I have Bijan Robinson for 77.8 rushing yards and 23.3 receiving yards. I have him overall for 14.2 fantasy points. That's 89.5. So I have him for over 100. I think I'm going to smash the over here for the rushing and receiving yards. Let's look at Miles Sanders. His prop is at 75.5 rushing plus receiving. I have him for 67.7 rushing yards and 13.5 receiving yards. So that's 80. It's too close. I don't like it. I'm not going to do it. Let's look at the wide receivers. Okay, so Adam Thielen and Drake London. So Adam Thielen's at 38.5 receiving yards. I have Thielen for 42. Don't like it. Drake London's at 52.5 receiving yards. I have him for 58. I also don't like that. Jonathan Mingo is at 39.5 receiving yards. I have him for 45. It's still too close. Scott Reynolds says I also took Jefferson for more than 7 receptions. Let's see what I got him for. So I have him just under 7. So 6.8. So close to 7. Like if you round up, it's 7. I don't know if I'd smash the over on that though. So let's go to tight ends and let's see what Kyle Pitts is looking like. Manny being Manny, what's up, brother? He says bench 1, Hollywood Brown, Addison, Likely, or K Wright. Who the frick is K Wright? Hollywood Brown. Okay, let's go back to that game. I have Hollywood Brown projected for so Marquise Brown, I have him projected for 7 fantasy points. I got, oh, sorry, I didn't even turn on PPR there. So I got Jordan Addison projected in PPR for, okay, we'll start with Hollywood Brown. Hollywood Brown, I got him for 11.4 in PPR. Is it PPR, buddy? And then Jordan Addison, I have him projected for 10.2. And then Likely, should he replace Mark Andrews and get Mark Andrews' workload? Oh, no, don't want half PPR. I want full PPR. So I have Isaiah Likely for 8.8 fantasy points. So I feel like Jordan Addison's, Hollywood Brown is the safest bet. Oh, Pitts. Okay. Pitts, I have him for 9.9 fantasy points. So once again, numbers are like fairly accurate. I would go with Hollywood Brown. It tastes like sulfur coming out of my mouth, but it is what it is. All right. So Kyle Pitts, let's look at his prop here. He's at 37.5 receiving yards on drafters. And I have him for 10 more than that. So I'm going to smash the over on Kyle Pitts. Let's go to the Burrow versus Watson game. All right, so we'll go down to Burrow. So I have Burrow for 268 passing yards, so I'm not smashing the over there. Deshaun Watson, I have for, where the hell is he? There he is. I have him for 242 passing yards, so that's just 4 over. But for rushing yards, I have him for 28.4, so I'm not touching either one of those. It's not safe. Manny says I'm starting 3 out of 4, so it would go Hollywood Brown, Likely, and Pitts. Bench Addison. I don't like Addison this week, anyways. Joe Mixon and Nick Chubb. Let's look at the running backs. Nick Chubb. So I have Nick Chubb projected for 88.9. So let's say 89 rushing yards and 16 receiving yards. That is 105 rushing and receiving. And his prop here on drafters is 94.5. I'd rather smash the over on the rushing 78, and I have him projected for 10 more than that. So, or 11 more than that. I'll smash that. And let's look at Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon, I have him at 62.5 rushing yards. That's too close. And I have him for 22.3 receiving yards. So that's 84.8. Yeah, no, I'm not touching Joe Mixon there. Moving on. Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Jamar Chase. So let's pull up my wide receivers here. And then we'll select this game to make life easier. All right, so Jamar Chase, I have him at 6.4 receptions. I'm not going to take the over there. It's way too close. Amari Cooper's receiving yards is, I have him at 64.9. And yeah, that's 8. Donovan Peoples-Jones, I have him for under 34.5. No, sorry, I have him for over, but I have him at 40.5. Manny being Manny says, thanks, brother. My pleasure, homie. So yeah, I'm not touching either of those wide receivers or any of them. For Jamar Chase's receiving yards, I have him at 78. So yeah, I'm not touching that one either. T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, David Njoku. So T. Higgins, I have for 62 receiving yards, and the prop for Higgins is that's too close. And I have him for 4.8 receptions, so also too close. Tyler Boyd, I have for 40.3 receiving yards. 7 points is not good enough. So we'll go back to tight end. 36.5 receiving yards for David Njoku. I have Njoku at 40.9. Yeah, that's also too close. Not touching it. So far we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 props. That's going to 20x our money, but we want to go for the 100x. That's what we'll do. All right, let's go CJ Stroud versus Lamar Jackson. And I'll pick Houston versus Baltimore. Okay, so Lamar Jackson's prop is at 225 passing yards. I have him for 220. So not touching that. Rushing yards, I have him for 61.6, but I also don't know what he looks like in this new Todd Monken offense, so I'm not touching that either. CJ Stroud, I have him projected for 224 passing yards, but I also don't know how he's going to look like as a rookie against that phenomenal defense. So I don't like it. I don't like it. Feels like a trap. All right, running backs. All right, I got J.K. Dobbins for 64 rushing yards. His prop here is 63.5. Don't like it. Not an outlier. I have him for 12 receiving yards, so that's 76. And yeah, I would take the under there, but it's also way too close. Not an outlier. Definitely not something I'm going to do. Let's look at wide receivers. Select a game. Houston, Baltimore. All right. So Nico Collins, I have him for 51.4 receiving yards. What do you guys think about Nico Collins? Should we smash it over there? Odell Beckham Jr., I have him for 48.1 receiving yards. Also seems like a smash situation. And then tight end, let's look at Schultz. So I have Schultz for 38.4 receiving yards. His prop is 31.5. They all feel like traps, honestly. Honestly, they all feel like traps. I feel like Nico Collins is the safest bet, but I also don't think any of them are a safe bet. All right, let's go to the next game. All right, let's look week 1. We got Jacksonville first, maybe. Okay, so the prop for Trevor Lawrence is 261. I have him for 259 passing yards. Don't like it. Anthony Richardson, I have him for 211 passing yards. He's projected for 192.5. And his rushing, I actually have him projected for under at 41.6. Ashton one says Collins seems risky. Exactly. Like, even though the numbers make sense, it's like common sense says it could be anybody or nobody there. I kind of like the Anthony Richardson over passing yards. I have him projected for almost 20, so I'm going to take that. So I can't take any of his wide receivers. I'm going to leave Trevor Lawrence here. Let's look at our wide receivers props. All right, we'll pull up this game. All right, so let's look at Calvin Ridley's prop is 5.5 receptions, 65 yards. I have him for 5.3 receptions, 62. So I'm not touching that. Alec Pierce, I have him for 40 receiving yards. He's projected for 30.5. It's kind of risky. It's kind of risky because it could be Pittman. It could be anybody. I'm shocked. Is there a Pittman prop? Yeah, 4 receptions, 46.5. I have Pittman for 54.7, but he's one of those guys that like screws you over. And I have Christian Kirk for actually almost 10 receiving yards more, but he's another guy who's burnt me in the past. So I don't want to touch any of that. I really don't. Evan Ingram, not touching it. All right, Brock Purdy against Kenny Pickett. Yes, he can. And the spread on this one's pretty interesting. I got the spread right now is +2 for Pittsburgh Steelers, and San Fran's only favored by -130. It almost seems like a gift, right? It's not even a trap game. Ashton one says Kirk over. All right. Ashton one says Christian Kirk over. If Ashton one says Christian Kirk over, and the numbers say Christian Kirk over, I'm going Christian Kirk over. So we got one more prop. We want to make sure that it's a huge outlier, a massive outlier, and we're going to put $7 on this. So 7 will turn into 700 if it all hits. And then we'll do another later slate where we'll put another $5 on it. You're taking the Ritter passing yards under. I have him projected for like 20 or 25 more. All right, so let's look at this. Brock Purdy, 233.5 passing yards. I have him for 221. I'm not touching it. Kenny Pickett for 219. I have him at 229. Still not touching it. There's way too much leeway there. Don't want to do it. Don't want to do it. So let's look at the next props. All right. Let's look at the. Okay. We'll look at CMC, then we'll look at Najee. All right, Christian McCaffrey, his rushing yards is 56.5. I have him for 60. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. 33.5 receiving yards. I have him for 38.7 and 97.5 rushing and receiving yards. So I have him for 98. Yeah, I'm not touching any of those. I really am not. So let's look at Najee Harris. Najee Harris isn't here. All right, let's pull up the wide receivers then. All right, so Brandon Ayuk for receptions, I have him for 4. Receiving yards, I have him for 52.5. So that's a 3 difference. Jonathan Siegel says, "Who's ready here?" You bet your tuchus we're ready. We got our coffee. We've been grinding since 6. It's going to be a hell of a day. How you doing, brother? I really thoroughly enjoyed our show yesterday. It was so nice talking football with you and Poochie, man. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. All right, let's look at Deebo Samuel. Jonathan Siegel says, "Merry Xmas." Scott Reynolds, the GOAT, says he's ready. You know he's ready. Asham 1, you know this man's ready. He's born ready. All right, so Deebo Samuel, 4 receptions. I have him for 4.3. Receiving yards, I have him for 57. He's here for 50.5. Also don't love it. Let's look at the other 2 receivers. Deontay Johnson, George Pickens, and we'll look at Freiermuth. All right. Deontay Johnson, I have for 58.7 receiving yards. George Pickens, I have for 54. So I'm going to smash the over on George Pickens here. I love George Pickens this week against San Francisco. All right. So it's just Pat Freiermuth that they got here. Good to know. Tight end. Okay. So I have him for 36.5. I'm not touching Pat Freiermuth. So let's go quarterbacks. We got Baker Mayfield in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming into Minnesota to upset them. The spread is 5 in favor of the Minnesota Vikings, and I feel like I'm gonna smash that all day. Oh, I'm gonna place this entry. Oh, I gotta put money. Okay, 7. One or more selections are invalid. What the fuck? How are they invalid? What's invalid? Okay, I'm just going to place it on my phone. Give me a sec, fellas. Is anybody tailing this? Let me know. Let me know if you're going to tail this. So pick them. We got Sam Howell over 210.5 passing yards. We got Bryce Young over 202. I don't like that. Whatever. Sam Howell over. Bijan Robinson over his rushing and receiving. Kyle Pitts over his receiving. Nick Chubb over his rushing yards. Anthony Richardson over his passing yards. Christian Kirk over his receiving yards. Shout out to Ashton One. And our last one was George Pickens over his receiving yards. And we're going to put 7 on that. All right, that's what $700 looks like. Cool. Let's go. Okay, so on to the next game, or the later games. We just finished with, so let's go strictly the 4 evening games and try to build something nice out of that one. We still got a couple of games, so we'll do the next set. All right, Baker Mayfield versus Kirk Cousins. I got Cousins for 270 passing yards, right in line, not touching it. I got Baker Mayfield for 245 passing yards. He's 233.5 here. Should I take Baker Mayfield here, folks? Should I? Let me know. Let me know in the chat if I should take Baker Mayfield. I'll come back to it. Let's go running backs. And then we got Minnesota versus Tampa Bay. All right. Alexander Mattison, Rachaad White. Let's look at the projection. So Rachaad White is at 48.5 rushing yards. I have him for 53.2, not touching it. Alexander Mattison, 62.5 rushing yards. I have him for 63, not touching it. Rushing and receiving, 83.5. I have him for 83. 83 on the dot. Also not touching it. Moving on. Wide receivers. So just let me pull up the wide receivers here. Do you guys enjoy this kind of content live before kickoff? Is anybody tailing me? Anybody tailing me? Let me know. Tampa Bay versus Minnesota. I can't wait to show you guys the freaking winning tickets that we built here online together. All right. So Chris Godwin, 5 receptions, 58 yards. Godwin, I have him at 65 yards and 5.7 receptions. Jordan Addison, I have him for 48 yards. If you guys had to pick between Godwin and Addison, who are you running with? I'm going to go with Godwin. I'm going to take the over on Godwin. Justin Jefferson, Mike Evans. Let's look at those guys. So Justin Jefferson, I have at 88.5 receiving yards. So the under, and I have him for 6.8. I'm not touching it. Mike Evans, I have him for 64.7. He's here at 57. Also not touching it. It's way too close. Don't love it. Tight end. Let's look at TJ. I wonder if they got Kate Otten. Nope. 4.5 receptions. I have Hawkinson for 5 receptions. I kind of like it. Because I feel like Cousins going to be hurried a lot. And if Cousins is hurried a lot, I'll leave it. That's what we'll do. We'll leave it. All right. So next game we got. Okay. We got Tennessee coming into New Orleans. I'm going to, so the money line's got New Orleans favored by 3. I'm going to take Tennessee to cover the spread there too. So Derek Carr, 242. I have him projected for 251. Kind of like the over there. And Ryan Tannehill, I have him projected for 227. And over here, it's 218.5. I'll leave it for now. And then we'll look at the running backs. All right. Derrick Henry, 93.5 rushing and receiving yards and 80.5 rushing yards. Okay. So I have Henry at 88.2 rushing yards. So it's kind of close. Receiving yards, I have him at 16.5. So that's well over 100 combined. 104.7. Yeah, I'm going to take the over on the receiving and the rushing for him. And then Jamal Williams is at 53.5 rushing yards. I have him at 59.7. I'm not touching it. It's too close. But I think he's a decent play. I do. Chris Olave, I think, is going to have one of the best games of all the wide receivers this week. And at $5,800 on Owner's Box DFS, he's an absolute steal. An absolute steal. All right, let's look at our wide receiver projections here. Okay, so Olave's at 67.5. I have him here for 76.2. Not touching it. Hopkins is at 58. I have him at 58, and I have him at 4.7 receptions. Also not touching it. Michael Thomas, Rashid Shaheed, Treylon Burks. Let's look at those guys. So Treylon Burks, I have him for 46.9 receiving yards. His prop here, so I have him over 10. So I'm going to take Treylon Burks over. Michael Thomas, I have him 51.5. I'm going to take the Michael Thomas over. No, I'm not. I'm not going to do that. Rashid Shaheed, 38.1. Yeah, it's too close. Next game, Justin Fields. So we're going to. Justin Fields, I have him projected for 184.8 passing yards. It's way too close. And I have him projected for 64.9 rushing yards. Also way too close. Don't want it. Not touching it. Let's look at the running backs. Green Bay versus Chicago. All right. AJ Dillon, 42.5 rushing yards. Aaron Jones, 57.5. Okay. So Aaron Jones, I have for 61.2 rushing yards. So that's 4 over. AJ Dillon, I have for 43.5. So that's 1 over. Not liking any of those. Khalil Herbert, I have for 59.4. So that's 6 over. And I have him for 10.6 receiving yards. So that's about 70 at 6 over. I'm not touching it. DJ Moore's the only wide receiver here. Okay. All right. So his prop is at 48.5 receiving yards. I have him for 59.8. So I'm going to take the over here. And then we'll look at Cole Kmet. How I Kmet your mother. Tight end. 30. Yeah, I have him for 33.7. Not touching it. So we got 3 props. Richard Hernandez says James Cook or Mostert. Let me look. At first glance, I'm going to say James Cook, but we'll see. Is it PPR or standard, buddy? So for PPR, I have James Cook projected for 11.5 fantasy points, and I have Mostert projected for 12. So I would say Mostert. But you can't go wrong with either one of them. I mean, one of them could be a flex, a very solid flex play. I'm benching Breece Hall this week, fellas, in a lot of leagues, and it feels bad. It feels absolutely terrible. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. All right, Geno versus Stafford, and then we got Cam Akers here too. Okay, so quarterbacks. Select a game. And here in this game, another interesting thing is the Seahawks are only favored by -4.5. I feel like they're going to double, if not triple that. I might like the spread a lot there because the money line is -210. The spread is -110. So I might like the spread there. Okay, so Geno Smith, I have projected for 255.9 passing yards and 19.2 fantasy points. He's 253.5 here. Not worth it. Stafford, I have projected for about 241.9 passing yards against the Seattle Seahawks, but I also don't like it. I think it's a trap. I think it's an absolute trap. So we're not touching it. Cam Akers. So let's look at the running backs. And this is what I do every fucking Sunday. I sit here and I go through my numbers that I crunched and that I had cross compared to like 3 different optimizer tools. And I look at props and I look for outliers. So right now, Cam Akers is at 66.5 rushing yards. I have him projected for 67, not touching it. Kenneth Walker, I have him projected for 69.5. Also not touching it because his prop here is 65. Unless it's like a clear cut, outlier, I don't want it. All right, so Metcalf, his prop is 65.5. I have him at 65.6, and I have him for 5.4 receptions, so right in line. Tyler Lockett, I have him for 5 receptions. He's 4.5 receptions here, and I have him for 55 receiving yards, so I'm also not touching it. I don't think it's safe. Van Jefferson, Tyler Higbee. Van Jefferson, I have for 50.7 receiving yards. It's about 9 more than what he's projected here. Also don't like it. Not touching it. Don't want it. And Tyler Higbee. So Higbee, I have projected for 43.6 receiving yards and 4.3 receptions. Not touching it. All right. We got Jimmy Garoppolo and Russell Wilson. So let's go quarterbacks. Select a game. We're almost there, folks. All right. So Russell Wilson, I have projected for 237 passing yards. Jimmy Garoppolo, I actually have projected for 243 passing yards. So I'm going to take the over here on Jimmy Garoppolo. That's pretty significant. All right. Let's look at running backs. Okay, so Josh Jacobs, 90.5 rushing and receiving yards. I have him for I have him for 5 over that. I have him at 95. And then rushing yards, I have him for 4 over. I have him for 77.3. His prop set, so I don't want that. Javonte Williams, I have at 46.5 rushing yards. And I have him at 16 receiving yards. So that's, yeah, it's 0.5 difference. I'm not touching it. Don't want it. Samaje Perine, I have projected for 44.8 rushing yards. His prop here is 38.5. I kind of like the over a lot there, just because I don't think Javonte is going to be ready. So I think he's going to be utilized a lot more. And I don't like the run defense for the Raiders at all. And 15.7 receiving yards. So that's 54, 59, 60. Yeah, I have him about 6 over that as well. Also don't want to take it. How many am I at? I need 4 more. We're running out of room, folks. All right. Let's look at the wide receivers. Okay, so Davante Adams, I have him projected for 6 receptions, 71.3 receiving yards. Doesn't work. Jacoby Myers, I have him projected for 48.3 receiving yards, but I already took Jimmy Garoppolo, so why am I looking at that? Marvin Mims, I have him projected for 46.2 and 3.4 receptions, so that's way too close. Let's look at Greg Dulcich. I have him for 37.8, 6 over, not touching it. Ooh, I like this game. I like this game a lot. All right, quarterbacks. Miami versus LA Chargers. Okay, so Justin Herbert's at 293.5. I have him at 285, actually. In Tua, I have him at 272, so I might go over on Tua. Okay, let's look at the running backs. Okay, so Austin Eckler, I have for 5 receptions. I have him for 52.6 rushing yards, and I have him for 39 receiving yards. I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it for now. Raheem Mostert. Scroll down for that one. Raheem Mostert, I have for 62 rushing yards. They have him for 68.5, and I have him for 14, so that's well under. I have him for 14 receiving yards. Don't want that. Waddle, I can't touch Waddle or Tyreek Hill. So Keenan Allen and Mike Williams. Scott Reynolds says, I need to think more about what I am doing with this. I took the over on all my picks: Bijan, Chubb, Lamar, Jefferson, Tyreek. But like, here's the thing: I got them at their floor. Be right back. I gotta pee. So yeah, they could very well hit. They could very well hit. I just have them at the floor. All right, I'm back. You said AJ Brown and Chase. You took the over on them. It's very doable. Honestly, all it takes is one play. So Keenan Allen, I have him at 6 receptions, 63.4 receiving yards. So don't like it. And I have Mike Williams at 58.1 receiving yards. Also don't like it. Not touching it. Gerald Everett. I think I have him right in line. Let's look at Hurts. So Jalen Hurts is my second highest projected scoring player at the quarterback position. I have him projected for 50.5 rushing yards, so 6 over. And I have him projected for 234 passing yards, so I don't like it. And then we'll go here, select a game. And then Mac Jones is at 222.5 passing yards. I have him for 228, not touching it. Let's look at Ramondre. Ramondre I have for 64.8 rushing yards. So about almost 10 over. And then I have him for 24.1 receiving yards. So that's 89 rushing. Scott Reynolds says, if I win 500, you'll be the first to know. My man, I appreciate you. Yeah, I don't love it. I don't love it at all. Let's look at wide receivers. Where the hell is this game? There we go. All right. So wide receivers, AJ Brown, 5 receptions, 69.5 receiving yards. I believe I have him at 7. Yeah, I have him at 73. Devonta, I have him for 5 receptions. I have AJ Brown for 5 receptions as well. And I have him at 63.1. So just over. Juju Smith-Schuster, he's at 47.5. I have Juju at 51. Also don't like it. Dallas Goedert. And I have Dallas Goedert for 4 receptions, 46.9 receiving yards. Also don't like it. Okay. Let's look at this game. We're almost done, folks. Dallas and New York Giants. I want the quarterback, so I'm going to pull that up. All right, so Dak is 242.5 passing yards. I have him projected for 256, too close. Daniel Jones, I have him projected for 227 passing yards, so that's 12 over. It's not bad, and I have him projected for 39.7 rushing yards. Let's look at what the receivers are doing. That's a lot for Saquon. Let's pull that up. Running backs. Select the game. Okay, so Saquon here is 93.5 rushing plus receiving yards. I have him for 95. Yeah. 3.5 receptions. I have him for 3.5 receptions, not taking over. 67.5 rushing yards. I have him for 70. Receiving yards, I have him for 25. Yeah, I don't want any of it. I think the only one that seems kind of cool is the receptions. I feel like 4 receptions is kind of like in the ballpark of what he's going to do. Let's look at Tony Pollard. So Tony Pollard's at 70.5 rushing yards. I have him for 76. I have him for 24 receiving yards. So I have him for 100 rushing and receiving. It's just way too much needs to happen, so I'm not touching it. I'm not touching it. Let's look at the wide receivers. So Brandon Cooks, I have for 55 receiving yards. Yeah, I'm taking the over on Brandon Cooks. And then CeeDee Lamb is at 70. I got him at 76. And I have him at 6 receptions. So we're good there. Darius Slayton and Michael Gallup. Michael Gallup, I have at 39.3 receiving yards. Where the fuck is Darius Slayton? Darius Slayton, I have at 40.3. Don't want either one. I don't. Need one more prop. So let's look at tight ends. Do we know if Darren Waller's healthy or not? All right. Darren Waller, I have him at 48. Yeah. Okay, let's look at the last game. Let's look at the Monday nighter. Okay. So 232. So I have Josh Allen for 254, so 3 over, and I have Aaron Rodgers for 241. That's about 9 over. Okay, don't like it. Don't like any of it. But 37.5 rushing yards. I have him for 38.7. Also don't like it. What's next? Running backs. Okay. Select a game. Buffalo versus New Jersey. All right. Or New York Jets. Why did I say Jersey? James Cook. That's it. That's the only prop. Okay. So James Cook, 61 and a half receiving and rushing yards. I have him for 68. Don't like it. I have him for 51 rushing yards. Also don't like it. So let's look at the wide receivers. And if not, we'll just go back to Darren Waller. All right, Lazard, Gabe Davis, Garrett Wilson. Okay. So Diggs, I have, what's the prop here on Diggs? Diggs is at 70.5. I have him at 72.5. Garrett Wilson's at 69. I have him at 66. Gabe Davis is at 46.5. I have him at 50.5. And Alan Lazard, I have at 44. All right, Darren Waller. Let me hit the over here. Hopefully it'll let me put in 5. Perfect. All right, we're chilling. We're chilling. All right. That was fun. That was fun. That was enjoyable. Let's do it again every Sunday. Hopefully we made some really, really, really ridiculous money. And I hope everybody enjoys their football Sunday. I know I am. I'm chomping at the bit, and I'm going to go put my Patriots jersey on. And my 2 upsets alert. 1, I got Tampa Bay either covering the 5 spread against Minnesota, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or Tampa Bay money line. So either one works for me. And then I got the New England Patriots upsetting the Philadelphia Eagles. And this is a homer pick. Don't tell me, but I'm doing it. So yeah, shout out to all of you for tuning in. God bless you guys. Have a wonderful football Sunday, and we'll see you guys tomorrow with the aftermath. All right. Talk soon. Bye.